What's up, everybody? I'm Chad Brock.
I'm Zach Bailiff.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Orion Podcast. I held that pretty close to the microphone for you. I wanted to make sure you heard it tonight.
Ironically, it sounded quieter than normal.
Yeah, there you go. Welcome back, everybody, to the bi-weekly edition of the Orion Podcast, the Cooler Podcast, telling even cooler stories, brought to you by the good folks at Jackson Kayak. For all your cooler and kayak needs, check us out at jacksonkayak.com. Pay the bills.
Yeah.
Pay the bills.
Little housekeeping.
Little housekeeping. Got to have it. We got the moose tonight.
You're on babysitting duty.
I'm on babysitting duty. We've got little Polly Gray hanging out with us tonight. So if you hear a little bit of and a little across the floor, yes, the Bernedoodle is in the house. So anyway, you made it back to PAIC.
Yeah, we're back. It's always a long trip, but rookie over here.
Rookie.
It was
first episode.
It was good to be home. It's good to catch some fish and check trail cams and put out mineral and all that good stuff.
We did have a good day fishing.
Don't get to do it often enough, but
no, and fishing season's going to get behind us, and then I'm going to have to go help you. So payback's coming.
I'll take help.
Payback's coming. Chris Funk gives us the hey, you guys. Scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the Goonies?
Oh man, it's about as close to 10 as you're going to get for the classic movie scale.
I'd give it a solid 9. I don't know if I'd give it a 10.
It's up there. It's up there.
I'm a Top Gun person, so that's kind of Dukes of Hazzard.
Top Gun, Tombstone, Dukes.
Yeah. Jason Cassidy says, "What's up, boys? What's popping, dude?
Hey,
welcome."
I have static again.
Yes, you have static again. I wasn't going to say anything.
Well, I don't know what to do.
Chris Funk says the Goonies is borderline 11. I don't know if it's borderline 11. It's up there. It's up there. It is my dad's favorite movie. He actually has the movie poster hanging downstairs on the way down to their basement. So
that's
I don't know how this translates into the Orion Podcast, coolers, or anything else that we have going on, but the Goonies was a good movie. It was a good movie. Let us know in the comments over here. How do you rate the movie The Goonies? We want to know. We'll tally this up at the end of the episode.
It's funny. This is the second time I've had this conversation about movies from that era this week. So,
well,
it's hard to beat the classics.
Nostalgia. We did. I mean, if we're talking about movies, we went and seen Thor: Love and Thunder. There was love and there was thunder. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I've heard mixed reviews on that one. So
I'm mixed on it. It was good. It was all right. Every now and then you got to have a date night during fishing season, and this weekend it was date night. So my boats didn't leave all weekend. My fishing rods didn't get touched, and we had You left. We fished Monday. You left. Then we had a river tournament on Wednesday. And to be honest with you, that's a river tournament I'm going to try to forget because we did everything but sink the boat. And we tried that pretty hard on the way back to the boat ramp. We're lucky to have a prop. So,
oh man.
But anyway, without further ado, let's get into this thing tonight. Zach, I want to let you introduce tonight's guest.
Yeah, tonight's guest, man. He's a guy I followed for a while now, a number of years. I really appreciate the work that he puts out, and he's a husband, father, business owner, and entrepreneur, inventor, photographer, writer. He's a backcountry bow hunter and overall adventurer. He's always out there, showing us what he sees through the lens of his camera, and it's awesome. Bohm, guys, he spends a ton of time in wild places, and he's with us tonight to talk a little bit about that. How we doing, Fred?
Good. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Appreciate it.
Hey, we appreciate you
taking the time.
Being here about this podcast that started off the weirdest it's ever started off. We're talking about movies instead of hunting and fishing.
You never know where it's going to go.
No,
that's good. It's good.
We're that
Last
real.
week we were talking about, or 2 weeks ago we were talking about music. So
we're quite literally that Instagram reel that floats around that says the doctor said I got 80 of them, and I don't know what HD is, but I got 80 of them. That's it.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Oh man.
Oh gosh, man.
So
Fred, go ahead, Zach.
Kicking this thing off, we were just chatting a little bit a second ago. You and the family last fall sold the house, jumped in a camper, and did life on the road for a while. Tell us a little bit about that and the challenges and how everybody adapted and how they enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was. I don't know where we came up with the idea for it, but I think we were just kind of getting tired of city life. We're from families all in Denver, and just got to be a little bit too much. And we said we got the company that I own to the position where I could work from anywhere. We set it up where as long as I had an internet connection, so I needed that every day. So that was one of the problems I needed to solve, was just to make sure I had an internet connection, so I could keep in contact with my customers, my manufacturers, on and on, that type of thing. So once that was solved, yeah, it was just kind of like, let's see where we want to move next. And a great way of doing that is doing a hunting road trip. So we started, it was right about October 1st, and we did 5 months on the road, and a lot of it was upland hunting. Ton of it was bow hunting. It was a mixture of everything. And, it was me, my wife. I got 2 young kids, at the time they were 4 and 6, and then our 2 bird dogs. And we packed all that into a truck and a 30-foot camper, and we just hit the road. I don't know, just said the hell with it and give it a shot, and jumped out there. And the kids were young enough at that point where we could homeschool our oldest one. It was just a good experience because COVID was crazy anyway in the city, and they were going to school, then they weren't going to school, and it was online. Right. And so we're like, the hell with that, let's and we could show them a lot more, seeing a bunch of the US, and they get a ton of experience out of that. So we just took a chance. We did it, and it was absolutely awesome. So, and hunted a ton, and then we found the place that we wanted to settle down. So, yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, that's.
Woo. I don't know if you hear that
awesome.
thunder in the background. It's blowing up here. Yeah, storming.
I just saw the radar out there, so
yeah, we're gonna. I
know what you got coming.
Now, so, if I lose power, I apologize.
Yeah, we'll make do, but. How, little kids can be a challenge sometimes, but they're always pretty adaptable. 2 littles and 2 dogs. I'm sure that was pure chaos in a camper on the road.
It was, but you know what? We started them off young. So our kids, right off the bat, I think my son was a couple months old, and grouse season was coming in. So I threw him, in a backpack, and I worked the dogs. My wife would hunt, and, he was only a couple months old at this point. So there was never... we raised our kids right from the get-go that we travel, we do things, we get in the outdoors, we made it their normal, so it wasn't all of a sudden at 5 years old, they're like, whoa, what is this? Like, what, we're in a car for 12 hours, when we're driving in between locations. They got used to it. They know what we do. So it was, it was, they were used to it by the time we hit this road trip. But no, not going to say it's smooth sailing by any means. I mean, these are still two young kids, and it's a boy and a girl, so they're fighting with each other. And I don't know, but it was 99% awesome, and then that 1% chaos. And it was worth it. The memories are phenomenal. And there's times where you got uptight and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to choke somebody. you know that you're going to look back at that time and be like, this was one of the coolest times in our life. So, that helped a lot as well. We knew we were building like really cool memories. So.
Right. Yeah, oh, absolutely. When the chaos and the struggles are just a minute portion of it, it makes it all worth it for sure.
Yeah. And it'll be stories to tell for a long, long time. Not just a short time. Now, obviously, you're in the mountains every chance you get, chasing critters of all sorts. How did let's back up and kind of talk about how you got into hunting and what was your inspiration that got you there? Did you grow up with it, or was you introduced later, or how did it come to be?
Yeah, no, I think it was like the typical hunter. My father, brought us up, me, my brother, and my sister. We were always in the woods, whether it was hunting or, fly fishing or whatever, just going out in the woods, hiking. We did a bunch of camping, that type of thing. So I was always in the woods as a kid. I never really sat behind, played video games or watched too much TV. We had enough property. I was an East Coaster originally, but we had enough, and my cousins lived close by. So we were out, adventuring, running around, making forts, tree houses, all that type of stuff. So we were always outside. And that just, I went away from hunting for quite a long time. Once you get into those teenage years, you rebel against everything. I got real into rock climbing, and that's actually why I moved out west. Was to pursue that. And, it's just essentially, a climbing bum for a ton of years, just traveling everywhere doing that. And then it was mountain biking. But, I don't know, maybe about 10, 12 years ago, I fell back into hunting. You always kind of go back to your roots, whether, you know it at the time or not, you tend to do that. And then the mountains was, whether I was out rock climbing or mountain bike, I was always in the mountains. So it was just a natural thing to get into the backcountry. I just wasn't too into the whole truck hunting and that type of thing. It felt more natural to be out in the middle of nowhere chasing animals. So, that's kind of what I did, and it's what I love to do.
Yeah, it's a special place out there in the backcountry. I mean, there's so many things that we get to experience when we're out there, whether it's just, a day trip, couple days extended trip, that so many folks in this world are never going to get to see just because they won't. I mean, they're not going to be out there to experience it.
Well, that's it. I mean, what else gets you out there? Even when I was mountain biking, right? So I was on single track. You're on a trail the whole time. So you were seeing things that everybody else saw. Rock climbing, not so different. You were going to a cliff in a certain area. But hunting, like, you literally just, like, I don't know, you get up on top of a mountain and an elk starts to bugle in whatever direction, and you just chase it. Like, you see so many cool things out there that, if I wasn't chasing animals, I wouldn't do that on my own. You know what I mean? I wouldn't just go like, oh, this is a cool mountain. Let me just walk in random directions for the next, 10 days. Like, that wouldn't happen.
And you shouldn't do that. That's how you can get lost.
Let's just go walk and pitch off this rock face here and see where it goes.
That's it.
And then turn around and
it's definitely a catalyst to adventure. There's no doubt about it. It gives you a reason, a purpose to be out there. And a lot of other cool things happen while you're there, and you get to see a lot of cool things. And if you're into the photography, take pictures of a lot of other cool things. So it's a heck of a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times we've been packing meat back at, 11 midnight, 2 a.m. and I wish there was a trail that we were on. It would have made it a whole lot easier.
A little bit smoother climb.
Yeah. No blowdowns and deadfall and all that good stuff.
Yep. No, I mean, and that's just it. We're hunters, so we're in the type 2 fun. It's that whole thing when you're doing it half the time, you're miserable, but then afterwards you look at it and like, damn, that was really cool. So, I think that's just part of all of us. So I don't know.
The struggles makes you appreciate the easy stuff and the good times,
Agreed. Yeah.
Makes that meat taste better too.
Oh, you're damn straight there. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, are you as much into the rifle hunting side of things as you are the archer, or are you just kind of like me where you're just all in both feet, in the archery world?
I'm all in archery. Occasionally if I have some friends or a family back home that, wants to get out and they're like, I want to go on a elk hunt. Like, I'll point them towards rifle, then I'll go out with them and maybe I'll get a cow tag or something. But I mean, it's 95% archery. And then upland, obviously shotgun. So
Right. Right.
But do that a good bit as well. But for big game, no, it's pretty much all archery for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of that, like what we just mentioned, the struggle making it more enjoyable, more worth it sometimes. That's the
Sometimes,
life
yeah.
of an archer.
Yeah. Well, believe me, there's plenty of times I'm out there. I don't think if I just had a rifle, I would have been done on day one. And but
Yeah.
no, it is part of the fun. It's part of the challenge. I don't know. It's something about just being quiet out there and you're not hearing boom, 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 all over the place. You feel like you have the place to yourself, whether you do or not. That's
right.
Who knows? But
yeah,
it feels that way at least.
You get the question sometimes. They're like, well, what's how often are people successful, or how often do they field tags? And I'm like, well, the success rate in that unit's like 7% with archery equipment. They're like, what?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, and especially when you talk to a non-hunter, it was funny. I was just having a dinner the other night with one of my wife's friends, and we get that typical the hunting came up, and you're like, yeah, you do that, and then you start talking about that. They're like, well, you just go out whenever you want. Like, do you just leave them there? And you're like, oh god. So you had to go through that part of the conversation. Like, no, we actually eat these things, everything we shoot.
Yeah.
But that being like, she thought like every time you go out, you just killed something, you just shot something off the road. And I'm like, no. Let me explain something. There's days I'm out there for 20 days, and I may have one opportunity within those 20 days, depending on the animal and where you're at. Like, no, believe me, the success is not guaranteed. So
no, that's the least of guaranteed things when you're out there.
Absolutely.
How many hunts or trips are you doing each year right now, kind of on average?
Well, it depends on tags, but there's a lot of OTC stuff to fill in between, and then upland as well. I'll hunt pretty much. It depends. Like if antelope starting up, depending on the state, I think it's August 15th in Colorado. So it would start up then, and then I would hunt through pretty heavy all the way to the end of the Arizona OTC deer season, which is the end of January. So, the middle of August all the way to the end of January. Then I'll, in the spring, I'll try to pick up other tags, or sometimes we travel. We've done Hawaii for a month at a time, go down there with the whole family and then hunt that whole month. Or, I've done New Zealand, but that's been a real pain in the butt last couple of years with COVID, trying to get in there. So that hasn't happened. Try to extend whatever I can, but then summer hits as well. You're scouting again. So it doesn't really end. If you could get a bear tag and, maybe a turkey tag in the spring, that kind of holds you over if you can't travel too far. But no, it's, it's pretty much year round.
Yeah.
Find a way to make it getting out in the woods one way or another.
Oh, absolutely. If you do it the way you want to do it, there's no off season, right? So
there it is. Yeah.
Hawaii, you mentioned Hawaii. That's one thing I would like to go do is get down there and do an axis deer. I think that would be a blast. Everybody talks about how much fun it is.
It is. I mean, and I haven't hunted axis, to tell you the truth. So every time we've been down, we've done 2 separate times, both about a month each time, and it's always been the Big Island. It's a lot cheaper. Like, especially I'm going out with a family, so it's 4 of us, so we got to get tickets for everybody. The Big Island's pretty cheap. You could Airbnb, VRBO a house, and that's not too bad. And the rental is for a car is not too bad as well. So I've hunted that, and there's a ton. It is a very target rich environment between goat, sheep, and pig. You could really get after it, and I don't know, but I've heard the access as well. I just I haven't made it over to the other islands to be able to do that, and the Big Island doesn't hold axis deer. So
yeah.
But I'll take the
I think is the one you always hear. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Anytime you're in a target rich environment, it makes you really appreciate that, especially when you get back out chasing elk or mule deer or something of that sort. Yeah.
You realize you thought you could. That's a funny thing is you go to Hawaii and you're like, man, I'm pretty good at this archery thing. You're like, no. You go back home and then you get on a mule deer in the high country. You're like, oh god, I suck. I totally tricked myself in Hawaii. Yeah. So, but it's good, and especially like if you could do it, like beginning hunters, holy smokes, you want to talk about being able to put on a ton of stalks a day. It's a great way to advance your skills pretty quick. Just know it doesn't necessarily correlate when you come back over to on some of the other animals, but it's fun. I'd suggest everybody do it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely one that's on the list for sure.
Now, you're obviously out there hunting. You've got different trips and whatnot planned. How do you keep yourself in tune? How do you stay in shape for these? I mean, obviously, I know Zach. He's working out constantly, to get ready to go out to Colorado and all that. But what's your routine look like?
Well, I mean, when I'm not actually in the woods, lift, run, that type of thing, always doing something. There's not a day, that goes by that I won't do something. But, and try to gain as much weight as I can. I'm one of those guys that just, if I don't lift or anything, I get skinnier and skinnier. And I mean, I come out of the hunting season and people, you're like, whoa, you need to let me call your wife and give her some money and tell her to feed you, because you know what?
I don't have that problem.
Yeah, no, but it's bad in the other direction. I come out, my clothes don't fit, that type of thing. So it is like the off season or in between hunts, try to get back like lifting. But honestly, a lot of it is being in the mountains because I spend so much time in there. So that I don't have to worry about cardio or, legs or my lungs or anything like that. When you're in there, there's no better way to train for something than to do something. You want to be a good rock climber, you rock climb. You want to be a good mountain biker,
Right.
you mountain bike. Hunter, same thing. Get out there. You can train for the mountains, but being in the mountains is the way to do it. Backpack on and just dealing with that misery day in and day out of lugging stuff around. I haven't found the way to replicate that out of the mountains. So, but I try, keep running and don't sit on my butt. That's for sure. So,
yeah, it's all you can do is, beat on your legs and just kind of beat on yourself for the most part, and learn to embrace the soreness and kind of live with it, because day 2, day 3 of a 9-day hunt, it starts hitting you pretty hard, and you just got to work through it because you got a long week ahead of you. Yep. You mentioned losing weight. The very first time I went out, I think we were out for 5.5 days, and I lost almost 16 pounds that week.
Yeah,
and just over the years, I've kind of got my food dialed to where I can limit that to about 8 to 9 pounds now, but I'm still going to drop.
Oh yeah,
still going to drop weight.
You're always in a caloric deficit, when you're in there. You just physically can't carry that amount. The amount of calories you need, depending on the hunts, you're just not going to be able to carry that in, and you just try to, limit it as much as possible. But man, yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, you start looking at, your the most calorically dense foods you can and stuff like that. I mean, I've got it pretty good. I'm about a 3,400 to 3,500 average calorie per day right now. But that's nowhere near what we're burning when we're out there covering miles and versing elevation and all that stuff. So.
That's the truth. Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one. I don't know. Like I did a sheep hunt. Was it 2020? Now I'm about 155 pounds soaking wet, just normal. And I think I came out of there and it was like 143 or something like that. It was brutal for, it was just, I don't know. So just came out and just ate anything I possibly could, but I'm a pretty lean eater anyway. So, trying to keep inflammation down, all that type of stuff. So it can be tough to actually gain weight, but.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. You got to pack it in when you're trying to put it on, especially, when you got the genetic tendencies that, a guy like you has to be just thinner and leaner anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned bird hunting a little bit, doing some upland stuff. How's that going? I know that's something I see you and just a couple other guys kind of doing it out there in the high country, and it looks like an absolute blast.
Oh, it's awesome. It's so much more like, it's more social. A lot of times I get out there, even if you're hunting with, say you're out elk hunting with a buddy, like you're not talking that much. Maybe, it's certain midday, you're glassing, that type of thing, but that's about it. But it's always quiet. It's I don't know. Bird hunting is you're out with your bird dogs. So, you love your dogs. You love to watch them enjoy what they're doing. So that's a huge part of it. And then you get to go all of those cool areas. You go elk hunting or mule deer hunting. But you're running around with the shotgun and the dogs are running around and you're talking with your buddies. And I don't know. I love it. Like I grew up bird hunting back east and, it was nowhere near as good as out here, but it's fun. It's a nice way to fill in, times because you're not constantly big game hunting. And then right out my back door, I'm able to either, when I'm in Colorado, jump out and go grouse hunting, or down in Arizona, I could go out, there's quail everywhere. So you get to, it's a great way just to continue the season, honestly, and fill in days as well. So.
Yeah, it gets some miles under your boots, and you're less intense too because you're not packing around near the weight or anything like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Still getting out and getting some movement in. I've not done much bird hunting. We didn't have the birds back home in Indiana. So it's something that nobody in our family ever really did. But it's, getting a couple shotguns these last couple of years. We've kind of talked about the ones I've picked up and stuff a little bit, but it's definitely something that I want to try and get out and do. Chad and I have talked about getting out to South Dakota, maybe doing some pheasant here in a year or so, or something like that, kind of getting our feet wet with it a little bit. But
yeah, well, South Dakota is
like
a great place to do it. So yeah,
a lot of what we have here in Indiana is primarily put and take. We've got a couple refuges that'll put birds out, and that's okay. But when the dog goes out and basically trees a bird and it just sits there and looks at you, that kind of takes away from it just a little bit. It's more like you're saying, it's kind of about the banter and razzing all your buddies when they miss that bird that's just sitting still.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about it. If you get a shot on an elk or a couple shots in a season or whatever it is, I mean, hopefully you don't need to, whatever. But when you're out bird hunting, I mean, some of the limits, like you go out grouse hunting, you got 3 birds in a day and you're going to miss a couple. And it's, yeah, exactly. You get a lot of shots. It's not, the pressure isn't there. It's just kind of, it's a lot more chill for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. How, the views don't suck either. So
no. Get up ptarmigan hunting and I'll tell you, there's some views. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. I bet I got a buddy up in Alaska who loves to get out after them. That's for sure.
They're a good time and they're good eating too. So
is your passion for bird hunting what kind of drove you to start the business?
Yeah. No, just like the general industry, just honestly, what started is I had an idea. I thought I had an improvement on, other products out there for gun cleaning products, and came up with it, prototyped it, got it to market just to see if it would take, and it did. But yeah, it was one of those things I looked at, when I was looking at different things I could do, I'm like, well, I want to do something that's going to get me out hunting more. I already have the photography behind me. So I got a little bit of base on that. So if I can market a product, that would get me out into the woods more, well then, that's a no-brainer for me. It just gave me the ability to be able to hunt more. So yeah, that was definitely one of the reasons why I chose that for sure.
Yeah. Well, any bird trips become work trips then.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's it. You're like, I got to go work this weekend. Going to head out to South Dakota and chase pheasant. You're like,
yeah,
work. Like,
we got a marketing retreat. We gotta go shoot some photos.
Yep. No, that's it. So it works out well.
The look and the design, the branding behind it and the design of the products and stuff. It just, I love the whole, for lack of a better term, vibe, as much as that word's overused these days. But the whole, kind of essence of the company is just really awesome.
No, appreciate that. That was kind of like the idea in the beginning is like, you pass down these firearms, through the generations, they stay with us. They have memories attached to it. I wanted to make something that was high quality enough that could be passed down through the generations as well. Like our gun mat, like that is something that mine's going to outlive me type of thing. The materials are, the best that are out there. So that was the idea, is to make the best of the best that's going to get passed down with the firearms. And that was our demographic. And that happens to be a bit of the upland demographic as well. They're, a little bit more money, or maybe some of these guys are buying it. I mean, certainly not maybe like, these $5,000-$10,000 shotguns are laying on these mats. Like I wanted to offer them something more than just what was previously out there, like a mouse pad is essentially what it is, like a rollout mask, and I wanted something a heck of a lot nicer, and just more practical as well. So.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. You've got the higher end firearms and stuff like that. And I mean, as anal as I am about my lower end stuff, when you start talking about these $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 Kraigoffs and stuff like that, like you don't want to just lay your shotgun down on the tailgate of the truck. So it's nice to have, a high end, high quality mat and stuff like that, where you can really take care of it and get it cleaned up and ready to stow away for a traveling. Things get beat up all the time. So
totally. Yeah. And that's it. If you take care of these firearms, like they're going to last generations. If you abuse them, you don't clean them and they seize up on you. There's all types of issues. You're going to the gunsmith and whatnot. But no, if you take care of these things, they're built to last. So that's kind of a cool thing behind it. I mean, like I have rifles from my grandfather, and I remember, going out in his potato garden, and there was groundhogs out there, and I'd shoot them with him because they were, eating all of his potatoes. And he's an old-time farmer, but there was a memory attached to that. And, I still have that gun, and that's going to get passed down to my son or daughter. And I don't know, it just made sense to me to help people make it super easy. So it's really easy, fast to clean your firearms. It doesn't have to be this whole process, but just to be able to take care of them so they are able to be passed down through the generations.
Now, when you look at your product line and where you're at now, do you have plans to expand it and take it a little bit further? I mean, where's your vision at as far as where you're pointing?
Yeah, I mean, we want to continue not just with like cleaning products, but to protect your firearms. That's why we got into the gun cases. I prototyped one for bows as well. That kind of goes along that same line, that wax canvas, crazy horse leather, wool on the interior. I've prototyped that. And I'm like, well, maybe we could expand to not just firearms, but your weapons. It's because I am so much into the bow hunting. I think it'd be, there is certain things I want with bow cases that I don't think are available out there that maybe we could, fulfill for our customers. So, maybe expanding into some of that stuff and continuing the gun cleaning line as well. We got a couple ideas and a couple different style cases, maybe like a takedown case, a couple different ideas in there. But yeah, we're going to slowly expand it, just make sure it's a small enough company where I just don't want to throw stuff out there and then, it's crap. And, like I like to take my time, put maybe 1 or 2 products out, really get some good feedback before we go to market. Get handed over to my buddies, let them go beat on it, see what's wrong with it, and then, come back and fix it. So, I like that slow and steady type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Work out all the bugs before you bring it out.
Well, yeah, that's it. Because you get yourself a bad name in a hurry if you just throw something out there and people are like, they make crap, and that's definitely not something I want to do. So
now thumbing through your Instagram profile, man, you have kind of developed a signature style of editing all on your. You've got some pretty cool stuff in there. I will not lie to you. When did photography and all that really take off for you? Let's kind of touch on that side of it.
Yeah. Right after high school, went into community college for a couple of years. I screwed off in high school too much. So went to a community college, and then I took some photography classes as one of the electives. And this was back I think digital was just getting kind of started, but didn't really have a foothold. And they wanted to teach anyway. So we were doing the, film and developing our own film. And it was all black and white because that was a cheaper way to do it. So that started then. And then it went off and on. And I did it a little bit during my, when I was out rock climbing, but really got back into it probably about 10 years ago. But, my previous job before Sage and Breaker and I was a motion designer. So it was in the design world, doing video editing, motion graphics, that type of thing. And that also entailed, going out and shooting some video and some stills to be able to supplement whatever assets we were given to make these videos. So that was kind of the background in it, but getting out hunting really pushed it a little bit further just because it gives you time. I don't know, hunting really works well with photography. You're out there, you're up, it's way before sunrise, and you're going to sleep after sunset. So right there, you got the golden hour in the morning and the evening. So you got great lighting. Now, sometimes you're fighting, you should be glassing and you're taking pictures instead, but whatever, figure it out. You hunt with somebody else and you have them glass. I don't know. And there's a lot of downtime as well, midday. And then you could kind of like, well, what else am I going to do? I could either take a nap or I could go take some pictures. So, it just started progressing with that. And I don't know, I like design. I like photography, that type of thing. And, it just became a passion. And then I made the commitment that, anytime I go on a hunt, I'm going to, take pictures, take my good cameras with me, that type of thing. I was doing a bit of blogging. I still do. And that was really for the kids. Cause I wanted as I get older, sometimes you look back on stories and you're like, oh, that was awesome. You're like, no, it really wasn't at the time. It sucked at the time. And I wanted to be able to write about that. You know what I mean? But then I needed the visual aids to go with it as well. So you could kind of look out there and like, no, it was miserable. It was pouring the whole time we were out there. It was, freezing or whatever it was. So, I took the camera with me to be able to capture that and to be able to, give some visual aids to the writing.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, and on the backpack hunting side of being a photographer, now you're packing an extra 15 pounds of gear anyway.
I know.
Which,
Yeah,
I mean, tripod and lenses and yeah.
Yeah. You try to minimize that. I'm able to use one tripod for, your spotting scope and your binocs. I sometimes set them on a tripod, and then I have that in there already. So then I could use that for the camera. But yeah, you're still carrying in, your camera, lenses, batteries, the case, which takes up room. So yeah,
Now, how many lenses do you typically carry with you when you go on a trip like that?
I typically take two. I'll take a 16 to 35, so that's like my wide angle, and then I'll take a 70 to 300 for the zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, to really be able to get a little bit more distance and suck in the backgrounds to the foreground elements. So those two lenses, I'd love to take more, but you got to cut it off somewhere. So
absolutely, absolutely. We've kind of been battling that with kayak fishing here this summer, trying to. Zach's got a. What is it, 70 to 200 and then or 35 to 200, right?
35 to 150 and a 16 to 35. So I cover a pretty good gap with some fairly compact lenses for what they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and they're getting better and better too. I mean, a lot, especially these mirrorless cameras. That since they've switched over from like the SLRs, they've gotten smaller, more compact. I switched over to a Sony because of that. Reason in the beginning, and then. And the lenses aren't quite as bad either, depending on what you buy. So it's getting better, but it's still wait.
Yeah, there's days. So I had the Canon 60D was like my first one, and then I went into the mirrorless side with the Sony A6300. So it was the micro four thirds, and there's days I wish I still had that tiny little camera body back, because that thing was so compact and small, and you could get such a good product out of it. But I just, the full frame bug was kind of in the back of the head, and now we're at the A7 III. But things got a lot bigger when I went full frame. That's for sure.
Oh, I know. And then you're talking hard drives. You're talking, more processing power. There's all, it all adds up for sure.
Yep, the desk behind me is stacked. You can't see it, which is probably a good thing, but there's plenty laying around back there.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It like you said, it adds to the hobby. And there's downtimes in hunting and fishing. Anytime you're really outdoors and engaged in something, there's always a slow moment when it's just nice to sit back with the camera and capture it in a different way.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, for memories, typically we have a pretty crappy memories as humans. And like, you could see some of this stuff. Like I look back at my, and honestly, I use it a lot of times to remember what the heck I do. I'll go back through and I'm like, no, 2015, what was I doing then? And you go through your photos, you're like, oh, that's right. I did this hunt and I did that hunt. And I don't know. It's a cool way of just kind of, just building something where you could look back at your life and, really appreciate what you've done. So
now I know I've started my canvas wall here in my room. Well, there's multiples going on here. Do you print them out large format and hang them up anywhere?
I don't. I wish I did. I think it's just sheer laziness. I don't. I haven't printed anything yet, and I do need to. But no, I haven't. Everything's just digital at this point.
I'm the same way.
I'm
the same way. I've got a few that I'm like, man, that really deserves to be printed, but I'm like, I just never do. I never do get around to it and do it.
I know. But I think Costco does them pretty cheap. My wife keeps telling me, she's like, just do it to Costco. You can just upload it there and they'll just ship it to you. And
that's what I do. These are Walmart canvases in here, boys. They ain't high end.
Yeah. I mean, what do it's not going in an art gallery. It's going in your house. And that's the
right.
Now I can say some of those glass photos, Chris Funk, one of the guys that's listening to us right now, he has had a couple glass photos printed, and oh my gosh, they're absolutely beautiful. I think it's Fractured that does it, and oh my gosh, some of the sunsets and things off glass.
Yeah.
It's
I've seen it printed on metal. I think they do it on
like
a bunch of different things. It's really cool. And I should experiment with that, but I haven't yet.
And Fractured, if you're listening to this podcast, there's three of us that would like to work with
you. One of the other guys I know in the industry, he's had a couple grizzly photos done on metal prints, and they look awesome.
Yeah,
that
really
just a little bit of metallic look. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they're super cool. in the photography side, you've got such a signature look to your images. Like, it doesn't matter where that photo is at. If I see it, I know it's one of yours. How did you kind of develop that look? I know, as I'm still working my way through Lightroom and kind of working on colors and things like that, I kind of let a photo dictate which way I go with it sometimes, but you kind of seem to get a really consistent look with all of your photos. How'd you settle on that?
It was just, honestly screwing around. I mean, it just hopping in Lightroom. I kind of like that real old time kind of Western look. Where the blacks really aren't that crushed. You're popping those up a little bit, getting those more towards, dark grays, muting down the blues, getting the luminance down a good bit on those. It's just playing around, honestly, just seeing what I liked, what I didn't like. And then just slowly changing it over time, because that's the thing, is you can't really just all of a sudden like go completely different. People are like, oh, that's not your look anymore. So, changing that over time. Like, I could look back to some photos maybe a couple years ago and, where I did a little bit something different with it. But no, it's just, just kind of preference. It's just what I like to see, and then just developed it that way. But no real rhyme or reason, just because I liked it. That's all.
Yeah, it's a super cool, just kind of a low contrast, desaturated, but still crisp and sharp. Slight noise sometimes, just to give it kind of that old feel. But yeah,
let's do a quick little share screen here. I'm gonna throw your Instagram account up here.
Here we go.
There we go. Let's see.
This is a first. Getting high tech over here on the Orion podcast.
I'm learning.
Wow, I want to see how you do this. Good luck.
There we go. You guys see that one?
We don't.
Yeah, I didn't do it right. Let's see. Entire screen window.
Waiting for the big reveal.
Go. Share. Oh, look at us. There we go.
Nope. Now we're on it.
Now we're on it. So let's talk about this. This was the first one that I seen, and it just like, this is cool.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That one's going to go a little bit beyond beginner. So that's
I don't know, Fred. That happens to me all the time.
Well, I mean, yeah. So what I did is just threw everything in and I jumped backwards. No, this was all staged, obviously. But that's a lot of Photoshop work. So what I did is, I can't really point, but under my rear end there, what I did is I had a stool, just, typical, what is that? Maybe 3 foot high bar stool type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Put that out there. I laid on that. So I'm laying backwards, right? But then I use my jacket to cover it a good bit, so it kind of looked natural. And I'm laying horizontal. Now, mind you, pretty much all the pictures I do, I don't have anybody else out there with me, because nobody wants to spend time going into the mountains doing ridiculous stuff like this. So
I will.
I'm good. So I have my phone, which then triggers my shutter, and I give it like a 2-second or 10-second delay, depending on how hard, time I need.
Right.
And I trigger that. So then I'm laying back there and I have my hands up in the air doing that type of thing. So that's how I got me. For the boot, I'm standing over by the side and I'm triggering. Let me see where my camera is. I have my phone in one hand and I'm triggering, and then I drop the boot, making sure I'm not behind that boot. And I drop the boot in the air. For the bow, I hold it with my hand, and then I'm able to paint that out. And then what you end up doing afterwards is you clear everything out of there, and you just take the picture of the background. Now, all those elements that you do not want in there, you could paint that background with a brush using a mask in Photoshop. You paint in what you don't want to see, which would be the stool, which would be me in the shot dropping the boot, which would be me holding the bow. You're able to paint that stuff out. So that's how I get a lot of these. This is one of them where I've done that. Maybe you've seen the one where I'm jumping a fence. Let's see.
There it is.
Yeah. So like that, or that's a buddy jumping a fence. So again, I have a still image of the background without him in there. And then I have him jumping. And now it's a real pain in the ass, like on the left side where I got to paint the bow, the individual arrows and the veins over top of them. But I'm painting one image over the next. So trying to describe it as best I can. Maybe it makes sense to some people out there that have been in Photoshop and kind of get that kind of masking thing. But the thing is, you really want to do with a lot of these is get that. It's called a clean plate, is getting that background. Where you're able to use that then to paint in or paint out elements actually that you don't want in there.
that part of it makes a lot of sense. It's been a while since I've messed around in Photoshop a ton, but I know exactly between the layers and all that. I know exactly how you're
And your page has
going
got a
about that.
great
It's
feel,
definitely
man.
work, especially when you're by yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one
Yeah.
of the biggest challenges is, I solo hunt a lot because I get to hunt a lot, and a lot of people don't have the same. The guys I hunt with don't have the same schedule as I do, so I hunt with people
Yeah.
sometimes, buddies sometimes, but a lot of times, honestly, I'm out there solo. But still being able to capture these images,
Yeah.
when you're by yourself, it can be difficult. But being able to connect your phone, that's the key. Being able to
Mhm.
connect your phone to your camera and being able to pretty much control your camera through your phone. That's the crucial part.
Well, and I think you and I have chatted about that a bit, because are you still running the A7 II?
I am, and I do have the 4 as well, but the 4 doesn't let you, whereas the 2, you could go on your phone and then you could push on the screen where you want it to focus. You can't do that for whatever reason. They didn't continue that option with the 4. And maybe they have new ones out now that do.
The 3 doesn't do it either.
I know it drove me nuts. I bought that 2, or the 4 is essentially a backup for video. When I'm shooting video for the company, I need 2 different angles, so I just need the 2 camera bodies.
Right.
But when I go on the backcountry, I'm using the older body just because. Otherwise, what you're doing is manually focusing, trying to put something out there like a stick, focusing on that, and then making sure you're perfect. It's ridiculous way of doing it. And I mean,
it's so hard.
to skip that feature blows my mind. I mean, they dropped the ball on that without a doubt. So if somebody's out there looking for a camera, make sure that you're able to control it, which I think almost all of them now you can control with your phone.
Right.
But make sure it's a touch focus on there, because otherwise you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, I think we've had that conversation a few times, because I'm like, how in the heck are you doing this, dude? I'm doing the remote shutter with my phone, but I cannot get the focus to work, and we figured it out that the support was lost with the A7 III. I'm like, why would they not carry that over?
So I mean, for hunters especially, then I bet those A7 R2s, those bodies are going to go quick because of I can't, that's the only one that I know of, or the newest one that I know of that does that. So
yeah, well, and you could probably pick one up cheap too.
Yeah, they're pretty old at this point, and they're fine. That's the thing is, like, do you need that much more resolution?
They had the previous batteries, which didn't do as well as once they went to the A7 IIIs, they really fixed the battery life, because with the A6300 it was the same way. The batteries were awful. Yeah,
and that is the 2 you got to just carrying a ton of batteries. That's all.
Now, talking about cameras and all this, and knowing that you're in the backwoods and all that for numbers of days at a time, give us some tips on how you're keeping things charged up, because I mean, obviously it's not easy. These Sony batteries take forever to charge. So give us a little bit of insight there.
I don't shoot video when I'm back there, so that doesn't burn much. And if I am shooting video, it's I'm using the 4. So that battery life's a lot better, and I could bring in like 3 or 4 of those batteries. So otherwise, with bringing in the A7R2, I'm just bringing in a bunch of batteries. I'm not recharging back there. So I'm just, but with, the stills, it's not too bad. You could get some, and they're light enough, I'll bring in 5 or 6 of them. And just be careful with it, that I'm not screwing around and, trying to use the eyepiece more than the actual screen. So, you just be
I went from 8 batteries on a 9-day trip with my A6300 to 3 batteries on my A7 III.
Yeah. Oh, they're night and day. Yeah. The newer batteries are so much better.
Pro tip: always take your batteries and put them in your sleeping bag with you at night.
Yeah, that's a crucial one too. Yeah, I forgot to go. That's another one. And I have a buddy that does a lot of skiing, and what they end up doing is they'll keep it in close to the body, and they'll put hand warmers. They'll tape hand warmers around them if it's real cold. I mean, that's
that cold will zap them for sure.
We've done that a time or two.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. Yeah,
but it keeps them good. It keeps you moving. That's for sure. So what are some of your goals that you've got left as far as hunting and the different places that you still want to go that maybe you haven't been yet?
I definitely want to get back to New Zealand. That was awesome. I have some animals I still want to get back there. So that one would be definitely on the agenda for next year. Get up to Alaska. I haven't hunted Alaska yet. There's a ton,
that's one that's on the list for sure. We're supposed to go next fall, so we'll see how it goes. But
nice. Yeah, it's the logistics. It's a good bit more, but I mean, anything worth, and that's also your barrier to entry. So a lot of other people aren't willing to put that work in.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's worth getting up there. But yeah, I'd say Alaska. Get back to New Zealand. It's Africa doesn't really much interest me. I just want to be able to do like wherever some good backcountry stuff, but primarily those two right now is really what I'm looking at. And then whatever tags I could pull. This year I lucked out and got 2 really good tags. So, which is good because this is my last year as a Colorado resident. I was real happy I pulled some of these. So, and that was
burn
one
those
of the
points as a resident.
Yeah, I was, we have our place up there and we're in between Arizona. Then I'm back up to Colorado. I'm jumping up back and forth between the 2 houses. And, but that was one of the factors I was telling my wife. I'm like, I'm going to see if these tags come through this year. And if they don't, well, then maybe we can switch over our residency. But I'm like, no, pulled 2 good ones. So,
yeah, burn those points before you're out the door.
I know. That's for sure. So lucked out this year.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of a challenge trying to draw a couple of our goal units these last few years, and our points keep climbing. And now we're like, well, maybe we should start looking at a different unit that, because the unit we've been trying to draw without giving away locations and all that, but it shouldn't take the amount of points it does. It's just that the point creep these last 4 or 5 years has really, really taken off.
I know. It's getting tough. And Colorado seems to keep switching every year. And a lot of the states are. I know Arizona's now that I just saw. I got a notice in that that OTC tag is not going to be OTC for out-of-staters anymore for the deer hunt.
Wow.
Yeah, they switched that. So that's going to be a cap on that. And then now they're doing it like where a lot of other states, like Wyoming, where they, there's like a certain amount you got to call in each day for bear, and if it hits the cap of females or whatever it is, then the unit's closed. Well, they're going to be doing that with deer as well down here. So once that unit hits a certain amount, so it's, all these states are changing so fast and it's kind of tough to keep up with it.
Keep up with it all, yeah.
I know Colorado's talking like, more and more of those units are not going to be OTC anymore. It's more of them are going to go towards draw. So be interesting to see.
Well, and they're talking about, which to a certain extent, because they are one of, if not the last state that does not limit over-the-counter tags for non-residents. So they're talking about starting to put caps on that. And I'm like, it might not be where I can hunt every year if I'm, staying non-res. So
I know. Well, and that's it. It's just, it's applying to a bunch of states. That's really what it's coming down to, trying to find a good hunt. Each year you could get a decent hunt. I think that's what's going to come down to, because it's crazy. I mean, you hunt Colorado too. Like some of those OTC units, it's just not fun. You're just you're hunting other hunters. Like you're calling in people more than you're calling in elk. So.
Yeah, we've not had too bad of an issue, but I know some guys who have said that, or they get to the trailhead and there's 10 trucks and they do nothing but see hunters all week. And I'm like, I feel like we've been very fortunate in that respect to not have that issue since I've been hunting out there. 2015 was my first year.
Yeah.
So it's, I count ourselves pretty fortunate in that respect. Yeah.
And that mentality where it used to be just out hike the other guys, that is so long gone. There is no such thing anymore. Everybody's a backcountry hunter. Everybody's running like Cam Hanes, It's funny. There's times I've gotten to the point where I'm that in-between zone where, we used to go a bunch of miles back, and then all of a sudden you're with a dozen other guys. You're like, geez, We're that in-between where you're not quite road hunting, but you're not backcountry. You're in that in-between, and then you just run that line down the mountain, about 3-4 miles in, and it seems to be a little bit better. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe that, the popularity will switch back. I'm sure it goes, ebbs and flows.
I blame Snyder.
Oh, Snyder, you got to keep it quiet, buddy. I tell you. Oh, well.
Now, do you guys feel like the steps in the conservation with the changes in the tags and different things are a step in the right direction?
I think so. I think these animals are getting pushed around a good bit. They're definitely concerned about, so many people being in there during the rut, and that they're actually, we're causing an issue in there. So I don't know. It's, the greedy side of me says, no, it's fine. Everything's good. Just keep giving those tags. And But how long is that going to last? Especially the popularity is just skyrocketed. It's not the numbers it
Yeah.
was even 5 years ago with the people in
Yeah.
the woods. So I think we're going to have to, say that there's unlimited tags in a unit, that if everybody in the whole U.S. wanted to hunt in there that year, they could. It's bananas. It's just it's not sustainable.
Now, do
Yeah,
you
the
feel,
selfish side of me says, leave it as is so I can continue to hunt it every year.
Well,
But at what point does this, become more of a non-renewable resource and the, population start dwindling? I mean, we've seen it just in the last 2 years where the elk aren't nearly as vocal during that week leading up to the rut, or even during the rut as they were 3-4 years ago. And it's definitely got us wondering, and it's a resource we want to, be around for your kids and mine to be able to enjoy it as well. So
That's
now,
it.
obviously, the COVID boom, we're going to call it the COVID boom because that's what it was. We got a lot more people on the water, in the woods, buying campers, buying tents. They got outside. People got outside more during that time period. Do you guys feel like it will transition back? Dad, all of a sudden, he doesn't have the time that he did because little Johnny's playing baseball or little Susie's got a basketball, league again. Do you feel like that switches back, or do you think people stay outside?
Tough to predict. It's maybe people saw what a good thing it was and what they were missing. When as soon as COVID hit, and then all of a sudden you're not working for a little bit, or you're working from home, and then you get out there and you're taking the family out and you have more time to do that stuff. I think that's changed everything. That's changed, I think, a lot of people's careers, that maybe a lot of people don't want to go back to the office. And does that also mean that everybody's going to stay in the woods? Possibly. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's
I think there's definitely going to be some that'll stick, I think, but it's human tendencies to be or get complacent and not put in the work necessary to do certain things. I think you'll probably see some of the numbers taper off.
And I think this little bit of inflation too will taper some of those numbers off just a little bit, because people aren't going to go as far. I mean, from my standpoint as a fisherman, I already see less boats on the water. And those boats are going less far. They're the ones that are out there tending the park. We was out there 4th of July weekend, and man, what was the weekend before the 4th? We didn't see another boat till 10 o'clock, and we was on one of our big lakes here in Indiana on the southern part, and that's unheard of to be out there till 10 o'clock and not see another boat, especially where we was at.
On that lake.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be hit and miss. Obviously people are going to go as long as they can afford to go, but then that might scale them back, and people's interests change, I think, over time too. I mean, we've all seen it. You've got some of the buddies that we used to run around with, then all of a sudden they're not there anymore. They kind of fell out of it, where you've kind of stayed driven and kept on going.
Well, it helps that your new boat's powered by snacks and not gas too.
Because I like snacks. Snacks are good. Snacks and coffee.
Yeah, for sure.
Coffee's good outside, no matter how you get it. If you bring it to the water, or if you make it at the water or in the woods, as long as you make it on an Orion cooler, folks.
Good plug.
Good plug. I paid bills right there.
There it is.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Fred, we're kind of running out of time. We're getting a couple minutes away from our hour mark here. So first things first, tell the people where to find out more about you, more to find out about the business, and then thank the people that you need to thank.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram primarily for the photography, and that's just Fred Bohm. It's Bohm. Or you could fredbohm.com as well. That's where I have my blog. And then my gun cleaning company that makes gun cleaning products is Sage and Breaker. It's Braker. You can find us online, or you could also find the photography for them as well on Instagram. So no, guys, I appreciate you having me on, and just being able to run my mouth for a little while. So no, much appreciated.
Always fun to swap stories, man. It's been awesome. I know we've chatted online a lot, so it's good to finally talk in person a little bit. or
Absolutely.
semi in person.
See, look at that. Good things come out of social media. I tell you.
Yes,
Not all
absolutely.
bad.
Absolutely. The
No.
Orion podcast. It's a beacon of light into your every other Tuesday.
There you
evening.
go.
All right, Fred, we're going to drop you down below, sign off, and we will be right back with you, sir.
All right.
There we have it. Episode number, what are we on? 12?
12, I think.
Yeah, it says it up there in the corner. So, yeah, this is a good one. I enjoyed that.
That was a real good. It was a blast.
It was good. We got to talk about cameras. We got to talk about upland game, which is something that we've got a slight hankering for. That's a bad habit we both need right there. I'm sure our wives will love it when that one takes off.
I got 2 over and under shotguns that are begging for some exercise. So, and you and I both know that upland photography is probably one of my favorites. So,
well, I don't think this is going to work as a bird dog.
Well, she was watching TV during this whole podcast. So
no, there was a long period of time where we was muted and she was squeaking her toy. So, but anyway, yeah, I don't think she's quite ready for upland yet. But
no, probably not.
Well, guys, we will be back in action 2 weeks. Well, not next Tuesday, but the 26th. We'll be back. We're going to be episode 13 of the Orion podcast. We'll be right here, 8 o'clock, Tuesday, July 26th.
We'll see you then.
See you then. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Check us out on Spotify.
Later.